Hello, my name is Kirioth, Herald of Nurgle and Actual Human Plague Bearers. Still, if it could go away, that'd be nice. And today, we're going to talk about the Ultra Smurfs, the blueberries, the little shiny sons of Guilliman, who, let's face it, everybody pretty much hates. I mean, that's actually an exaggeration. Not everyone hates them, but they have retained a certain status over the last few years. I say last few, again, that's an understatement, actually. Quite a lot of years now, of basically just being insufferable and awful and annoying and frustrating. And it doesn't help, of course, that they are on the front of everything Games Workshop does, because they are like the poster chapter for the Space Marines, which are the poster boys for Warhammer 40k. And of course, things like the introduction of the Primark Marines hasn't helped, because that essentially turned into Guilliman, the ultra Smurf, arriving with his ultra Smurf reinforcements to ultra reinforce everybody who has ever been in need ever in the 40k universe. They get a lot of flack, Ultramarines, and I'm not going to lie, some of it is deserved. Although, it's worth pointing out that whilst the Ultramarines have been reviled for quite some time, not 100% their fault. See, the Ultramarines have a kind of an interesting history, in that up to a point, they weren't so much hated as just found to be a little bit bland. At least that's always been my perception of it. When I was a lot younger and I was first getting into 40k, the way that Ultramarines were first kind of explained to me was they are like the beginner chapter of Space Marines. So when you start playing the game, you want to make a Space Marines army, the kind of default is Ultramarines. That is how like veterans of the game kind of explained it to me at the time. And to be honest, the way that Games Workshop presents it, with everything being painted Ultramarines colours, with everything on the front of all the codex, all of that stuff, it's all Ultramarine colours, it's all Ultramarines. Now, they have done stuff to update their image a little bit. I mean, after all, Ultramarines used to be blue and yellow. It wasn't gold, it was yellow. So they had a nice kind of Fisher-Price sort of colour scheme going on there. They've since been updated. They look shinier, they look more fancy, more regal. They've had a bit more personality added onto them. And I think for a while, they were maybe a little bit bland, but they weren't actively disliked. It was more a case of, we just keep seeing Ultramarines. And that was it. There wasn't any sort of real dislike there. Then, the arrival of a chap named Matt Ward. Now, of course, people who are into the hobby will know of Matt Ward. He is really quite infamous. He's done some interesting things with Warhammer. Like just wrecking Space Marines lore down to the ground, for instance, by making it so that the Ultramarines were the best chapter. All hail the Ultramarines. Every other Space Marines chapter wish that they could be as cool as the Ultramarines. For the Ultramarines are the ultimate fighting force. They're the best, the literal best in the galaxy. Get out, Iron Hands, you're shit. You wish you could be as good as the Ultramarines. Imperial Fists, Imperial Who, it's all about Ultramarines. They only wish they could be a tenth of the awesome of the Ultramarines. It sounds like I'm exaggerating, but the problem is that I'm only slightly exaggerating. Matt Ward basically made it so the Ultramarines were objectively the best chapter, and all of the Space Marine chapters looked up to them, which obviously rubbed a lot of people the wrong bloody way, because it's idiotic. I mean, one of the really awesome things about 40k is the fact that you have so many different variations of the one thing. So, a Space Marine is a Space Marine. All Space Marines are built essentially exactly the same way. And yet, from chapter to chapter, the philosophies of the Space Marines, the ethics, the morality, the training, the methods of warfare, it can be totally different from one chapter to the next. And that's even reflected when you go back as far as the original Legions. The White Scars did not wage war the same as the Ultramarines waged war. The Iron Hands did not wage war the same way that the World Eaters waged war. The Emperor's Children did not wage war the same way that the Salamanders waged war. They all have their own flavour, their own style. So when you take one and you just elevate it and make it so that's the best and everyone else is garbage and they only wish they could be as good as that, you take away one of the driving forces behind what makes Space Marines interesting. Because the problem with Space Marines, as with a lot of stuff that is supposed to be the best, is that you have to have things like flaws, you have to have differences to make them interesting. like a character can only be interesting up to a point if they have no flaws. And by making the Ultramarines essentially flawless, what you do is you just make them irritating and dull. You take away the thing that allows the person to relate to them. And so, understandably, Ultramarines just became a joke. It's just like, oh, it's these little blue bastards again, no one likes them. And I mean, whilst it is a shame, because the Ultramarines now are quite the interesting faction, they're quite an interesting army, they have their own proper history. When Matt Ward just went full terrible with it, it turned a lot of people off. And the thing is, we're now at a point where it genuinely kind of disappoints me to see people still holding on to that era of lore. That one really garbage portion of 40k where someone took what makes the Space Marines interesting and just demolished it. Because the thing is, the Ultramarines went from being something that I found bland and boring and dull to being one of the more interesting Space Marine chapters / legions. I mean, looking at Horus Heresy stuff, they are easily, my two favourite legions to read about genuinely are Ultramarines and Wordbearers. Now, in a way, they kind of have their similarities, at least their Primarks do. The way that Gilliman has been written and the way that the stories have expanded on his character and the character of his legion, I get a similar vibe to what I got from Lorgar, which is that I don't think Gilliman ever particularly desired that warlord status, that general status. He's an empire builder. He's someone who is permanently looking to the future. The now is just when you need to start things off. You need everything to be planned because you've got to build up, you've got to maintain, you've got to make it so that tomorrow is better than today. And whilst that is by itself quite a kind of, oh, how very goody two-shoes attitude, he still had his flaws, which is what makes him interesting. I mean, one of the things that I see a lot is that Gilliman and the Ultra Smurfs, they're just arrogant. I don't really think they are. I've never really got that impression. I think that occasionally, when you are as adept at things with logistics and stuff, it can be quite easy to come across as arrogant. Because when you're speaking to people who are more war-minded, for instance, you can see why Lorgar, for instance, would see Gilliman as arrogant, as looking down on him, as being aloof. Lorgar is a being very much of passion, of emotion. Gilliman has that passion and that emotion, but it's just implemented in different ways. He doesn't allow it to lead him on an hourly basis. He piles it all into just work. I mean, when you look at the way that Lorgar and Gilliman handle themselves, there's a lot of kind of petulance on Lorgar's part. And the thing is, when Gilliman is talking about his brothers, and this happens throughout the Horus Heresy, it's perfectly obvious that there's some of them he just cannot possibly understand. He does not get them. He does not understand them. He cannot relate to them on any level. And yet at the same time, in one of my favourite books from the Horus Heresy, The Unremembered Empire, he has an entire room set out, constructed for the sole reason of he and his brothers and the Emperor sitting down to discuss the matters of the Imperium. He doesn't understand them. He doesn't understand Angron. He doesn't understand why Lorgar is such a petulant child. He doesn't get Pachurbo's moodiness. He finds flaws in all of his brothers, and yet at the same time, he still looks at them and goes, yeah, he's really annoying. He has severely messed up, but he's still my brother. I mean, that is something that I think gets washed away in the kind of landslide of the Ultramarines are still garbage. One of the things I really like, again, from the Unremembered Empire, there's one line that basically kind of turned me around on Ultramarines as a whole. I was starting to like them more. I was liking the character of Gilliman more. I was liking the Ultramarines more as the Horus Heresy has progressed. But there's one line in Unremembered Empire which kind of made me just warm to them to a much greater degree than anything else had so far. I'm not going to spoil the book, and the thing I've already said about it, again, not a spoiler, but essentially there's a surprise inspection. Gilliman turns up on a planet, and there are Ultramarines stationed there, and he arrives there, all good. The next day, he sees, I believe it's a sergeant, and the sergeant has buffed his power armour to the point of insanity. Like, you can see your face in it completely clearly. He has polished it to hell and back. And Gilliman says, "You're trying too hard." And the sergeant is rightfully like, "What the hell are you talking about? It's a surprise inspection. You've got to do it right for a surprise inspection by the Primark." To which Gilliman is like, "Yeah, that's fair enough." And the sergeant then says, "Besides, we're Ultramarines. Isn't trying too hard the point of us?" That fixed it. That fixed Ultramarines for me, because I think it perfectly sums up their character and gives them the self-awareness required to make it so that they're not just perfect. I mean, they come from a Primark who, at his very core, is just about building the future. He's about building an empire. He's about creating a stable, safe environment in which humanity can live. In that respect, he is very much like the Emperor. But he's passed that on. He's passed it down to the Ultramarines themselves. And the thing is, I think it's probably fair to say that they're not as capable as he is by any stretch of the imagination. He's a Primark. He has vast intellectual capabilities. He is capable of stuff that no one else, other than other Primarchs, could possibly do. But the expectation is that the Ultramarines follow in his footsteps, and they don't just fight. They need to be warriors, they need to be warlords, they need to be generals, they need to be, governors. They need to be experts in logistics, they need to be experts in everything. And they can't really do that. Space Marines are far cleverer than your standard human, but they're not that clever. But they're expected to be that clever by the one person who holds that much sway over them, which is their Primarch. And when you look at it that way, that it is literally an entire legion, entire chapter, trying to live up to the expectations of a being that is so far beyond them that they can't possibly manage it, and yet they keep trying all the same, that introduces a whole new level of humanity to them, which I think is something that is lost from a lot of other Space Marine chapters. I mean, the way a lot of Space Marine chapters operate is, whilst they are elevated above humanity in order to protect it, they forget what makes them human. They strive to improve only in one thing, which is killing. That's basically it. We are here to destroy the enemies of the Emperor. Okay, you can do anything else? No. Alright? I mean, what else can you do? That's what they want to do. That's what they are trained to do. The Ultramarines don't have that attitude. Their desire to be better is a kind of a more detailed mirror of what it is to just be a normal human. Everyone in some way wants to be better at something. Maybe you want to be, like for instance, I want to be better at the guitar. I want to be better at certain things in my life. So does everybody. And by taking that away when Matt Ward mangled their lore completely, you took away what made them relatable. Now, with the Horus Heresy stuff, and even with the more recent books, things like the Dark Imperium, they've had their humanity reintroduced, and it's done a huge amount to fix it. I think at one point, yeah, the Ultramarines were deserving of hate. Not necessarily because of themselves, but because of what someone else had done to them. But now, I think if you actually dig into it and actually read into what they were as a legion and what they try to be as individuals, you kind of can't find that much of a reason to hate them after all. There might be lingering displeasure at Matt Ward, but I'd say maybe the Ultramarines have had their fill of hate, and if you're going to dislike anything, dislike the fact that they were messed with so badly in the first place, not the fact that they are actually now kind of interesting and one of the more nuanced chapters in the Warhammer 40k universe. Anyway, that's just what I reckon about the Ultramarines. Do you still hate them? Has Ward just killed them for you? Is that it? Is it just like, no, I'm done, I'm not putting up with it, they can take the blue armour and piss off? Or, like me, have you found by reading things like the Horus Heresy books and some of the more recent lore, you've actually found that you've warmed up to them again? I'd be interested to see what you think, because the meme is that everyone hates the Ultra Smurfs. I mean, everyone calls them Smurfs or Ultra Smurfs or Blueberries or whatever. They do not have a good reputation, sort of, at least on the internet. But how much of that is serious and how much of that is just being daft? I'd be interested to know. Let me know what you think in the comments below. In the meantime, there's plenty of other stuff to click all over the screen. There's a couple of videos, there's a Patreon, there's a subscribe button. I mean, feel free to click that. Like almost 1,000 people have subbed in 1 week. That's mental. I don't know what's going on there. It's crazy, but thank you very much. If you want to join them, then click the thingy. Yeah, I will see you for the next video. Oh yeah, and also I've hidden my ears again. It feels so good to have a headset back on, even though I don't even need it for recording. Why? I don't know. Force of habit. Anyway, this is the longest outro ever. I'll see you for the next video. Toodaloo.